Hello, welcome to another video. So, funny story, I actually filmed this video last week and lost the footage, so I'm now having to do it again. Just what we love to happen. Yay. I was so annoyed at myself when I found out that I had lost it. So, bit bitter, but it's time for my March wrap-up. I couldn't just not do it and forget about it, so I'm refilming it. Here we are. Apologies if I miss anything that I may have said in that other one, but you wouldn't know that because it's gone forever into the void somewhere. So let's just crack on with what I read in March. March was a very varied reading month for me. I ended up finishing 4 books and DNFing 2, which is a bit different for me because I don't usually DNF very many books, especially not 2 in a month. I've got to a point with my reading where I kind of know what I like and what I don't like, and I very rarely pick something up that I don't like because I know my own tastes. But I tried a couple of different things this month that didn't work out for me, so we'll get to those. But for the 4 books that I actually finished, I had 2 5-star reads and then 2 3-star reads as well. So even there, quite varied. It's been very high, very medium, and very low. Let's crack on with it. Let's start with the first book that I finished in March. The first book that I managed to finish in March was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This has been on TBRs after TBRs after TBRs for me. I've been meaning to get to it and meaning to get to it, and I just kept not getting to it. But in March, I finally finished it. I was buddy reading it with Jess, and her motivation always holds me accountable to actually finish things. I love buddy reading with her, so I'm really pleased that we knocked this one off. I did give this one a 3-star rating. It didn't blow my mind. It wasn't terrible. It was just very okay for me. I really liked the world building and felt it was very visual, like I could definitely picture the world and the scenery. But in terms of the plot, I wasn't incredibly gripped by it. I wasn't incredibly gripped by the characters. It was just very so-so. It was a quick read. It's got that going for it as well. Like, the writing style was very easy to follow. I found I was flying through it when I picked it up, but I wasn't very drawn to it, which I think is why it had been on so many TBRs and knocked off so many TBRs, and why I'm thankful that Jess was able to hold me accountable for finishing it, because I think it could have been one that once I put down, I really struggled to pick back up again. But it wasn't awful, and when I was in it, it was a quick read. Like, I felt like I was really flying through pages. The characters, as I said, were pretty so-so. I wasn't incredibly invested in any of them. It just felt very average to me. To basically summarise this, it felt pretty average. I do own the rest of the series, so I do plan on continuing with them. I know that people say that, what's the second one, Scarlet, is not as good as Cinder, but then it really picks up after there and is really good, so hopefully I'll enjoy these further on in the series. But the first one wasn't terrible, it was just very so-so. Oh, if you don't know what Cinder is about, it's a sci-fi retelling of Cinderella, where Cinderella is a cyborg, and there are people that live on the moon that want to wage war on the Earth, basically. The next book that I finished in March, and probably the favourite of the books that I finished in March, was Blood Witch by Susan Dennard. I gave this 5 stars. Of course I gave this 5 stars. I've fallen in love with this series. Love all the characters, love the world, love the magic, love the writing. I feel like I've gushed so much about this series within the last few months that you really don't need to hear me say it all again. But this was a masterpiece. I loved it. I am so invested in these characters and the journeys they're going on and the way they're developing and how the politics of the world are unfolding and how certain things are linking together. This is the 3rd book in the Witchlands series, but definitely not the last, and I am so eager for the rest of them. They cannot come quick enough for my liking. I can't tell you what this one is about, but the first book follows Safi and Iseult, who are thread sisters, so like a chosen family, if you will. Safi is a truth witch, so her magic can detect when people are telling a truth and telling a lie, or if something constructed around them is truth or a lie. But she has to keep her magic very secret because in an empire that's on the brink of war, her magic could be quite dangerous to someone in a position of power. So she hides her magic, and of course everything goes tits up and chaos ensues, and the series follows on from there. We've got some other fantastic characters like Aduin in here, and Merrick. Love them. But Iseult, love her too. I love all of them. All of the characters are really likeable to me. I feel very connected to their story and I'm rooting for them at all times, which makes me want to continue reading the book. And as I say, political intrigue and how the politics of the world are unfolding. I'm really invested in that whole plot. I need to know how things pan out, and also just the personal relationships in the books and those like side plots as well. I love it so much. So much. I don't want to gush too much because if you've watched any of my vlogs where I've been reading this or the other ones, then you'll know how much I love this series because I've gone on and on and on about it. But 5 stars, just fantastic. If you haven't read The Witchlands, do yourself a favour, do me a favour, read them. The next book that I finished in March is this whopper of a book. Look at the sheer size of this beast. This, I'm so proud of myself, I read in 6 days. It's massive. I normally struggle to read like an average sized book in a week, but I managed it. I'm really proud of myself. And I think that goes to show that it was a really good book. It was very easy to fall in love with the story, very easy to become attached to these characters, and when I picked it up and started reading, although it was dense and definitely took me longer to read a certain amount of pages, it didn't feel like it was taking that long. Like, it was very easy to get sucked into it. It was very attention grabbing. Like, it sunk its teeth into you as much as you sunk your teeth into it, and then it was very difficult to put down. But of course it's a whopper, so no one's going to sit and read that in one sitting. Well, actually some people might, but not me. That wouldn't be possible for me. But I did thoroughly enjoy this. I gave it 5 stars. The female power throughout this, because all of your main characters are powerful ladies, was fantastic. The female-female romance was fantastic. The dragons, obviously, were amazing. Loved the world. Again, loved the politics and how all of the politics of the different areas came together to create the overarching plot. And I really liked the role that religion played in this as well. I really enjoyed it and recommend that you pick it up if you haven't already. I did give it 5 stars. The final book that I finished in the month of March was An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This is the Quarterly Club's spring quarter book. The live stream will be on the 27th of April at 11 PM BST. So tune in if you want to hear all of us talk more in depth about this book. But for my overview to you now on my thoughts, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. This was my other 3-star read for the month. Again, I was buddy reading it with Jess, so really helpful in her like encouraging me to read. Buddy reading with her helps me read so much, honestly. But this was, it was okay. I didn't feel very connected to the characters at all, other than Helen. Helen was my favourite character of them, and I don't feel like we got anywhere near enough of her. But our 2 main characters, Elias and Leia, I didn't really feel anything for either of those, so I felt quite disconnected from the story from the onset, because I didn't really connect with those guys, and obviously they're telling the story. So The plot was intriguing enough, like I was interested to know, but I was definitely more interested in the plot on Elias's side than I was Leia's side. I found Leia's plotline to be quite bland, but Elias's plotline where he's in the Black Cliff school where they basically train assassins was much more interesting to me because, you know, training assassins. So yeah, I didn't feel very connected, but I was intrigued with the plot enough. Again, it felt like quite a quick read once I got in, like the writing style was very easy to follow and quick to get through. Like I, again, felt like I was flying through pages when I was reading it, but when I put it down, it was kind of a struggle to want to pick it back up again, which is again why I'm thankful for Jess for helping me with that. But yeah, 3 stars. I don't know how I feel about picking the sequel up. I probably will because I want to know what happens with Helen and how her plotline is going to roll out, and I really hope you get more of that in the second book because that is what's intriguing to me right now. That is what I want to know, like how that goes down. So I don't know if I'll pick up the sequel or not, but I think chatting about it with all the guys in the Quarterly Club will help solidify my thoughts on this a lot more. It always does, having all of our varied opinions together, so come along to the live stream on the 27th of April. Now for the DNFs. If you watched my vlog, you will know what one of these is, and that is Spindlefire by Lexa Hillier. This was the first book that I pulled from my backlist TBR jar, where if I pull that book and don't read it in that month, I'm going to unhaul it, or I'll read it and give it a go and see where we go. So initially, pleased with myself for actually picking the book up and giving it a go and trying, but this story was definitely not for me, as I explained in my vlog, so sorry if I repeat myself now. It read very young, and things were just kind of being told at you with no real explanation of what, how, why, or anything. It was just like, this is a thing. Like, I'm pretty decent at suspending my disbelief in fantasy stories because it's a fantasy world, but something about the way it was done in this story just didn't sit right with me, and I felt uncomfortable reading it because I was overly confused. And with it reading really young, the 2 main characters are 16, so they are young, but it read too young, I think, for me. I only managed to get to page 80, I think it was, or was it page 70? I don't know. I got to page 63, which is chapter 8, and at this point I was thinking, damn, this is really boring, I don't care, I'm gonna DNF it. And then I thought, oh, no, I should probably at least try and get to page 100, give it a decent shot. So I read up to page 70, so another 6 pages. And then in the middle of a chapter, I just thought, no, I'm done with this. I'm not enjoying this. I don't want to read because I'm reading this. I would literally rather like sit and scroll Facebook, and that's so boring. So yeah, this one was a no-go for me. It's supposed to be a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and like I get where it was going with that, but it just so wasn't for me. So I've DNF'd it, and it's gotta go. I didn't read it in the month that the jar dictated I read it, so it's gotta go. And then the last book I'm going to be talking about today, and the other book that I DNF'd, is quite possibly an unpopular opinion. Please don't hate me for this, but Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I got like, I don't know how many pages. I ended up reading up to page like 120, which is night 1 of Caraval. I picked this up because the Fairy read-along was happening, and I read that chunk of it and didn't like it. I don't really know how to explain my thoughts on this one because I just didn't enjoy what I was reading. It wasn't that the writing was bad, but I really just didn't care and wasn't into it, and was kind of begrudgingly reading it because I felt like I had to because I wanted to participate in the Fairy read-along thing. But this has been on my shelf for years, right? Since it first came out, because I got it in an owl crate when it first came out, and I've never wanted to read it in all that time it's been on my shelf. And then when I picked it up to read it, I also didn't want to read it, and when I got to like 100 pages in, I also didn't want to read it. And like, if I've been encouraging myself to do it for that long, I just didn't want to do it anymore, and I wanted to move on to bigger and better things, like the 5-star reads I've had this month, so I decided to DNF it. It's never been one that I've been interested in. Like, I have a habit of, if I'm interested in a book but I haven't actually read it, I'll still buy the sequels to it. And I haven't done this for this, because Legendary has been out for ages and Fairy Lit are even doing the special edition for Finale, and I just didn't have any desire to partake in any of the fandom activities, anything that's been going on with this, because I quite simply don't want to and don't really care. It's a very personal thing here. I just didn't mesh with it, wasn't feeling it, so DNF'd it. And I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion. I know it's a very beloved book, a very beloved series, so I'm not bashing on your opinion for loving it at all. It's very, very personal taste thing here. I just didn't want to. So another DNF, and it's got to go. So that is my March reading month. 2 5-stars, 2 3-stars, 2 DNFs. Very varied, but I'm kind of okay with that. Like, it's been alright. Hopefully I won't lose this clip now that I filmed it again, but I'm gonna sign off here and go and edit this, hopefully. So if you want to talk to me about any of these books, by all means do. If you want to explain to me why you love the books that I've DNF'd, do that too. I'm always up for discussing differing opinions. Likewise, if you want to talk to me about the books that I loved that you love too, I'm likewise down for that. But yes, signing off now. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, give us a thumbs up, chat to me down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!